Hello everyone, and welcome to Magma Rages episode 23. We are here in the last dying weeks of Angoro to look forward to the Knights of the Frozen Throne expansion. That's going to be our major talking point for today. And with me, as always, I'm joined by Pandemonia. How are you doing, Pandemonia?
Oh, I'm good. Good as always.
Okay, so the major news for the last week in Hearthstone has pretty much been around card reveals. There's been a lot of cards revealed, so we're not going to be discussing all of them. We're going to just be discussing uh, two cards sort of that we selected each,
So
and
personal picks.
yeah, personal picks for interesting cards or uh, cards that you think you're like interested in playing around with. That's kind of how I see these card picks. So let's start off with your first pick.
And yeah, you and Zaymok both guessed my two cards.
Yep.
Being predictable. So the first card is going to be Dead Man's Hand,
Mhm.
and this is a card where I first saw. I think you can put it up. It's 2 mana. What 2 mana spell?
Yep.
And what it says is shuffle a copy of your hand into your deck. So this is an exceptionally great value card. It's obviously it's quite a niche card in terms of against aggro it's going to be very slow,
Mm.
but against control mirrors or control decks it's going to be very strong because if you I imagine a deck that runs Dead Man's Hand might run a card like Elise. So you're going to be like shuffling another Elise into your deck. You're going to be shuffling like value. You're going to be shuffling ways of not dying, to try to keep yourself, just keep, basically win the fatigue war.
Yeah. And if you shuffle, so Dead Man's Hand is an epic, so if you shuffle the other Dead Man's Hand, if you're holding both in your hand,
Exactly.
you play the one, then you can go sort of
Infinite.
semi-infinite if you just keep
Yeah,
holding that one Dead Man's Hand in your hand at all times.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, infinite value.
You will be obviously limited in the cards that you get in that infinite value, and so it could be like Infinite Brawls has diminishing returns, let's say, because at some
but
point you're not
infinite,
gonna always
but
be killing
infinite
it.
Ungoro packs though.
Sure.
That is that is obviously the dream.
Sure.
I can see myself rolling in game with like a ton of packs.
Yeah, I also think in a deck like this you could play something like Arcane Giants. So to
Yeah,
me, to
actually
me, I,
true.
I saw this in a deck more that's kind of combo oriented with, let's say, stuff like Arcane
Auctioneers.
Giants, Auctioneer, Iron Hide, even the one mana that just gains you 5
Yeah,
armor.
right.
So
Yeah.
you can use that cycling from Auctioneer. You get a lot of armor. You can also use like Commanding Shout Wild Pyromancer stuff to clear the board. So
Yeah, it's actually possible. I mean, it'd be nice to see like a Miracle Warrior almost.
yeah, that's kind of where I see maybe this card having some kind of play. The
Yeah,
biggest issue for a deck like that is
not
Gadgets
dying.
and Auction. Well, I was gonna say Gadgets and Auctioneer is better the more spells you can fit into a turn. Obviously, when you play it. Now the problem with
Yeah,
that is in Druid it works because you have Innovate to fit in more spells and do crazy things, and in Rogue it works because you have the coin as well
and
as
preparation.
Preparation. So
Yeah, and backstab. Yeah,
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 well yeah, and
yeah,
Backstab, but
and
very often Backstab doesn't happen the same turn as Gadgets and Auctioneer. Anyway, so the point is, in Warrior, it's a lot harder to do that because you can't really get
yeah,
this natural reduction on your spells, and you're limited in the amount of spells you can actually cast in a turn. So that might be a concern for the kind of a Warrior deck.
yeah.
But
You probably, I mean, if you do play an auctioneer in a deck like that, you're probably not. You're never ever going to be getting as much value as you would in Rogue or Druid. So
yep,
you're probably gonna have other mechanisms of like I say leases like the kind of the card that springs to my mind.
yeah. And
But yeah,
Arcane
so that's
Giants is, if you're cycling
yeah,
a bunch of spells, Arcane Giants and getting extra free Arcane Giants seems pretty good. Especially,
oh,
you
yes,
know, you could even play something
infinite
like Sudden
giants.
Genesis or something, then you can generate a big board with Arcane Giants with the
Sun
weapon.
Genesis, the real value. What's
Ah,
my Sun
I'm just
Genesis?
saying, like, those are cards that can do use, like, have useful effects.
I mean, you have Wild Pyro, like Wild Pyro, Arcane Giant, Player Spell, Sudden Genesis. You know, kind of. You have
Yeah,
shenanigans. Sudden Genesis puts them into play or into your hand.
summons a copy of them, so,
Okay.
into play. So, I think there's definitely two different ways you can go with Dead Man's Hand. The easier way to play it, and probably the more likely way it'll see players in those kind of heavy control decks. So we could just see, a return of something like Control Warrior.
Especially with Bring It On, the other. I mean, we're not going to talk too much about it, but the other Warrior Epic, which gains 10 armor, it kind of also,
Yeah,
I think, that kind of fits into like a similar kind of deck.
yeah, yeah. So, Dead Man's Hand definitely something we could see there. I think
Yeah.
very interesting card design. So I'm excited to see what it can sort of do. And then
Yeah.
the next card that you, sorry, unless you want to say something more about Dead
Yeah.
Man's Hand.
That's, yeah.
Okay, and then the next card that you wanted to discuss is,
Okay, a no-brainer. I think anybody in the Hearthstone South African community could probably have guessed that I would have picked this card. It's Sindragosa, uh, the legendary dragon, the legendary mage dragon that is a 9 mana. It's an 8 mana 8/8 with battle cry. Summon 2/0/1 frozen champions, and these frozen champions are 0/1s with death rattle. Put a random legendary minion into your hand.
yep,
So for me, it's just this oozes value. It's just, I mean, 8 mana for 8/8, and you gain 2 free cards. But obviously, if you're the death rattle,
and
trigger the death rattle.
with all these kind of mage effects, it could go infinite if you're extremely lucky, right? Because Frozen Champions could give you more Sindragosas. Mm.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
No,
I mean,
but I mean, just like we say, Primordial Glyph can go infinite, Kabbalist Tome can go infinite. It's like, yeah, I can go infinite, but that's almost never gonna
you're
happen.
not. Yeah, you're not playing it for that. You're playing it for the fact that even just
Yeah.
2 random legendaries. Okay, so yeah, obviously now there's more legendaries. Yes, there are going to be times where you're going to get a really potato legendary like Lork Cho
There
or
are a lot of
that
potato legendaries right now, though. If you look at
but
Ungoro in particular, right, most
yeah,
of those legendaries are pretty potato. Like if you think
yeah,
about it, you don't really
but
want
it's
to get the
stats wise.
Vorax or Spirit Singer Umbra, So in a lot of
Spursimer Umbra has some random synergies though. To be fair,
sure, but most of the time those are
yeah,
not gonna
it's not
be.
a high value.
Yeah,
I
that's not
mean,
really what you're looking for. So
you basically what you're generally just wanting from it is like if you're not fussy, you're just hoping for a big guy. You're hoping for like a 7/7 plus from it. That's all you're really hoping for. Even if it doesn't come with a crazy effect, that's all you really want in terms of a free card. You don't want a net Pagel. I think anything from really a Ken upwards is kind of what you're hoping for. I mean, even getting Ken off of it is pretty good still, I think.
yeah, Ken's
Uh,
pretty nutty off this.
yeah, what I'm saying
Like,
is you don't want anything worse. You don't want anything like less mana cost or worse stats than Ken. Really, is what I'm kind of saying.
sure. And
I mean,
then
granted,
there
it's
is also
free.
the synergy of the 0/1s. The Frozen Champions are Death Rattle based,
Yeah,
so there is some like Nzot synergy. Let's say if you want to go
yeah,
the long
it's
value game, you pretty much just can play Sindragosa and Pyros with Nzoth, right? Like you don't actually need
well,
to
even
play
loot
much else.
hoarders. May just have some sort. I mean, you
Yeah,
could even
but
go with.
the big concern with that is that when you then play Nzoth, you can just fatigue, and so
Oh
I'm not
yeah,
actually
that's
sure you
true.
would play Loot Hoarder in a deck like that.
Yeah, but yeah,
Cause
Pyrus and the Sindragosa guys definitely. And I
yeah,
mean, at the end of the day, even if you do get, let's say, a 3/3 or 4/4, a poorer legendary, it's still essentially a free card that your opponent has to expend resources to get rid of.
yeah,
You know, it's that whole argument of, it's essentially an 8 mana 8/8 draw 2 cards
yes.
or draw two random two random cards, which I mean,
I'd say it's closer to one card in value on average because the legendaries
yeah,
there are a lot of sucky ones.
I would say 1 to 1.5. I would definitely not say it's 2 because yeah, obviously the fact that you got 2 chances. I mean, theoretically, there's also the chance for to kind of backfire if, like, let's say priests can start running Cabal Shadow Priests. So like,
Yeah,
let's say you play this on turn 8, on turn 9, the priest goes Cabal Shadow Priest, Shadow Word Death.
yeah,
you know, I mean, we might see an up. I mean, we might see an uptick in Cabal Shadow Priest because there are a lot more 2 attack and less minions.
yeah.
I
It,
mean,
it it is a card that is looking like it might get better if the meta goes very value oriented. Personally,
yeah,
I don't think Sindragosa is very good. I don't. I think the fact that the 0-1s don't actually force you to kill them is pretty important.
Yeah.
Your opponent can kind of just go face. And one of the big issues I have with a deck like this is there isn't really a payoff for mage to go the extreme value route. It will always just lose most of the time in that game against most other control decks from other classes. So against paladin, for instance, like infinite Tyrians probably beats, well, not infinite, but let's say, it's pretty easy to get two Tyrians or two Sunkeeper Tarims with Stonehill Defender and let's say Nzoth.
Yeah.
So that more often than not beats this deck, this sort of
I don't
slow
know.
control mage, and Druid will
Uh,
always beat it, the Jade Druid, or even Easy Big, right? It's always going to beat this kind of a mage. And then you also have
yeah.
like the Shamans with the Jade synergy stuff, probably also beats this kind of mage. So to me, it really is like, where is the mage actually finding its space, right? Like, what it
Yeah.
has to be is kind of like a freeze mage, but it's or like okay, like we're seeing these hybrid mages, but its finisher is like the big minions rather than the burn. And I think very often you would rather have the burn as the finisher than the big minions.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on the. I mean, like because it's this eight, I mean, eight, it doesn't actually directly impact the board. It doesn't have taunt. It doesn't affect the board immediately.
Yep.
I mean, it's a case of if your opponent's aggressive, they can just ignore it.
Yeah, and the 0-1s don't even force them to do anything, right? Like some people would maybe compare this with Dr. Boom, but the big difference there
Yeah.
is the Boom bots kind of you wanted to
With
still kill
threat.
them during your turn, or if your opponent plays
Yeah.
Dr. Boom, because then you can sort of maybe a little bit better control the RNG of the explosions as well as control where that
Yeah.
one damage is going. But these aren't, even if these were just 1-1s, then they would incentivize you to trade into them more simply because you couldn't, like, let's say you have a 3-1 and two 2-2s on the board. Well, you can use the two 2-2s and then the 3-1 stays alive, kind of thing. Whereas if
Yeah.
they were 1-1s, they
Yeah.
could
The
trade
the
into
fact
the
that it's
3-1s or
0-1, I mean, it's
something like
obviously
that.
gonna make it a bit awkward. I mean, you might have to ping it yourself, or I mean, volcanic potion is still there. I mean,
Yeah.
that's I mean, that's still kind of. I see the way that you might activate this without too much downside.
Mhm.
You might clear a board, and these guys. I mean, I'm not quite. I would like to. Sorry, it's a kind of card I would like to see play, but I
Yeah.
don't know if it will.
I just My biggest concern with it really is just the fact that it's not going to be good enough. The value mage deck is not going to be good enough because that's not how mage wins in control mirrors more often than not. Mostly you want to get on the burn plan, the Alexstrasza plan, or at this point like the Medivh plan, whereas at least Medivh is getting you the minions on board with the Artiosh weapon, whereas Sindragosa is just an even slower version of that is even weaker in my eyes to a lot of the other things. The biggest thing this has against Jade Druid is if you get this out on turn 8, it is an 8/8, and Jade Druid
And
traditionally
also,
struggles to deal with the bigger minions. So maybe,
those legendaries can randomly be clutch. Like there's an element of
sure,
you can rip some silly things off of it, obviously. But I mean, that's
sure. Basically, you could rip other big minions, which is what Jade
yeah.
Druid can struggle to deal with. So maybe there's a chance that the deck works out like that, but I'm skeptical. Um,
There's also the possibility that so obviously like now we're looking at it right now, but if we look a bit ahead, if they do, let's say, move Ice Block to the Hall of Fame, think rotation, this could potentially become better, right? When mage mage have the mage decks have to kind of shift their
Game
sort of their
plan,
core
yeah.
ideas and their core principles. This could easily become much better, let's say, after a card like Ice Block gets rotated out, right?
Yeah, or maybe as just a top end for a more mid-range minion-oriented mage, right?
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
which is maybe where the Death Death Knight mage is going, the Frostlich Jaina mage, which
Ele-
we're not really going to discuss. Dragon
elemental dragon
mage.
mage.
Yeah, I was looking at the dragon synergy and I was like, is there anything? Not really. It's just you can use Nether Spider Historian to have a pretty good chance of discovering more Sindragosas, right? So you
Oh
play Nether
wow,
Spider Historian in
yes!
this,
Oh
and
my
and
goodness!
you get a bunch of Sindragosas.
Oh my god! Sindragosa.
Sindragosa? I don't know.
Sindragosa high. What's the first one? One Sindragosa.
I don't know, but that is maybe one of the
Oh
synergies you can
wow.
get there is that you obviously, because the way Discover works, you have a higher
Mm.
chance of discovering class cards. Means Nether Spider Historian can help you discover Sindragosa at a higher rate.
And that's gonna be
So
quite that. Yeah.
that is one way to get a lot of value out of it as well. But
I mean, Dragon Mage was a thing. Once upon a time, it was a thing.
yeah, but
It was a fringy thing,
without
but it was.
cards like Blackwing Corruptor to really have payoff for the Dragon
And
decks, it's
Twilight
difficult right
Guardian.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other card that obviously could help is the Dragon Consort, I think it's called, whatever, the 5 mana 5/5 that buffs a
Oh, that's a
minion.
Paladin card only there.
No. Oh no, I'm
Dragon,
Dragon
Dragon
Consort. Yeah,
Consort.
Dragon Consort is the one that reduces mana cost. That's sorry, that's not the one I mean. I mean the neutral from the
Oh, the new one.
from Knights of the Frozen Tide.
The one that
It
buffs
gives
attack.
+3 attack at the end of your turn to another minion.
Yeah.
Like, which is a pretty
Oh,
decent card, if you are needing to find dragon spots. And that's a card that, for instance, is not
I
really
mean,
going
they're
to
on
make it in Dragon Priest because Dragon Priest has um, Draconid Operative that
yeah.
kind of fills up the 5 slots. And if the game goes well, you get multiple Draconid Operatives. So
I'm just going. I'm just thinking. That buff on Water Elemental could be good. I mean, your Water Elemental becomes a 4 mana 7/6. If you play, it buffs anything, right? Not just dragons. The attack.
yeah, it buffs anything.
It's +3 attack or +4 attack.
+3.
So it
So
could
it'll be a
make your Water
6/6.
Elemental a 6/6.
Yeah, but
4
the
mana
fact
six
that it
six.
ends at like end of turn, and anyway, that's a different
Yeah.
card. We're not gonna get
Okay.
into discussing
Yeah.
that now. We're gonna do some more
Yeah.
videos
Your
maybe during
cards.
the week or stuff during to discuss further the rest of the cards, as well as when all the
And now
cards are
your
revealed, we
picks.
will do. Yeah, I'm getting there. We will do some full reviews of all the cards with deck lists and stuff when they're released. So the cards that I wanted to discuss, first off, we have Eternal Servitude. So surprisingly, this is a priest card, considering priest is by far my least played class, and it is a 4 mana spell that reads Discover a friendly minion that died this game. Summon it. So it's a different take on the resurrection concept.
Yeah.
We resurrect a minion, but resurrecting it directly to the board, and you actually get to discover out of the minions that have died.
Which
So
is really good.
yeah, so the obvious sort of fringe, well, the obvious scenario here is really something like discover Malagos that died or something like that, right? You can play like Malagos
Yeah.
Barnes, and then you have a decent chance that your Malagos dies early, and then you can go Eternal Servitude with Malagos and some damage. Holy Smites and Mind Blasts are pretty much the only options. But I'm not sure that's necessarily going to be that useful. I think mostly though this is really an interesting card for combo decks like that, and I'll be interested to
I was
see
thinking
if it.
mid-range. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking more the mid-range. For me, the obvious toy is like Injured Blade Master.
Yeah.
But like the mid-range, like when Resurrect Priest was a thing for a while. Like the whole point is you try to resurrect things. Like so, yeah, you can go for you can try high roll with like Barnes and things like that. But what you usually did is just staunch minions. Let's say like Injured Blade Master, and you bring
Sure.
that back, or you bring
So
back.
yeah, one thing you can do with that as well is you can play maybe a like Humongous Razor Leaf or something as well, and maybe like a kind of silence package with this, right?
Yeah,
Because one of
that's
the ways that you beat Silence Priest and people learn to play against it, and I think one of the reasons the deck fell off so much is because people just realized you just kill all the minions. It doesn't matter whether they're silenced or not yet. You don't leave
yeah,
a Humongous Razor Leaf on the board. So this is a way to kind of get back one of those minions. And what
yeah.
that deck was kind of one with a minimal amount of minions. So I think it works best in decks that have less minions because I'm not convinced that playing this on 4 to get an Injured Blade Master is really good enough. Like a 4 mana 4/7, yeah, it's good, but I'm not
Yeah,
convinced that that's really where you want this to be because
yeah, no, definitely.
you need the Blade Master to have died, so now you're behind on board, obviously. So it's kind of like I don't know if really summoning a 4 mana 4/7 is going to be that great in that scenario.
Yeah, I mean, or you could always use, late game, as an enabler, like you say, a
Hmm.
combo enabler is also more potential. Yeah, I'm just trying to think what other real big targets. I mean, like Malagos. I mean, if you played it, let's
Well,
go now.
if you're playing like a
Let's
Dragon Priest, it's got
yeah.
Malagos Ysera, these
Well,
kind
let's
of
play
things
Death
that
Rattle Priest. Like that's also there's potential synergy
sure.
if Death Rattle Priest becomes a thing. You bring back. So if you play like Inzoth, this brings back another. You can try and get more value. Like if you bring back
Yeah,
a Cairn, bring back
and
one of your
I mean, the quest priest we never really saw be a thing, but now that there's a lot more death rattles that are being introduced,
yeah
maybe it will be a thing. Maybe now we'll have the critical mass of death rattles that are going to be required. And this is a good
yeah
way to get one of those death rattles on board because this summoning will actually count for the quest because the quest is summon 7 death rattle
yeah
minions.
and and it counts as an extra copy, right? So it's a case of therefore you get the effect. You get an additional copy when you play Inzoth,
Yes.
which it's much like the same interaction with like if you get two Tyrians, you know,
Yeah.
then both come back later. So, I mean, like especially what's the Totten Shellraiser potentially. I mean, I don't know if you want to be playing format to just play another 2/6.
Mm.
Uh, but I think what other death rattles are there? Like higher value death rattles. I mean, there's still a few priest cards to be spoiled, so maybe you never know. But that's another option.
Yeah, it is definitely something that might be viable in kind of a death rattle priest. I just think it's an interesting card that makes deck building quite interesting. Like I think it's a very difficult card because it's either a very important card in a deck or it's kind of unplayable because it's not
Yeah,
good enough, right? Most of the time. So I think it's very polarized in that kind of way, and I just really like the card's design, I would say. Like
yeah.
actually controlling the resurrection a little bit more by allowing you to discover is pretty nice.
And as people have said before, I kind of like this is the direction that they want to take with Hearthstone. It's the whole idea of controllable RNG, where
Mm.
it's kind of RNG that kind of still tests a player's skill
Yeah.
to a degree. It's not just absolute, like Cloud Fiesta RNG where it's like, okay, roll a dice, or between, choose a number between 1 and 100 kind of RNG. This is still random, but it's still, much like the adapt mechanic, it still rewards players who can, know, okay, what is the aim of this game? What is their goal of the game? How are they
Yeah.
winning the game?
And it makes deck building more interesting as well because the more sort of low cost or crappy minions you have in your deck, the worse this is, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because you obviously don't want to pay 4 mana to bring back a Wild Pyro or a Northside Cleric or,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
maybe in a game you don't want to play your Acolyte of Pain on 3 or your Northshire Cleric on 1 because you want to set up a better Eternal Servitude to guarantee you certain things. So, it makes it more interesting as to where you're going to hold resources as well for the minions that you do have in your deck as well.
exactly. Like, I mean, if you play, if this sees play against control deck, you know that okay, you're gonna hold back minions, and then you play, let's say, Ysera, and then you guarantee that when you play, you're paying 4 mana to get a Ysera,
Yeah.
or 4 mana to get some quite high impact minion.
hmm Yeah, so I think it has really interesting design. And then
Interesting to see if it actually sees play.
yeah, yeah. I just think it'll either be in a really fun deck or it won't see play. And I don't just mean fun like casual fun bad. I mean like good fun combo deck, which is kind of why I picked
Yeah, you and your combos.
it. Yeah. And then the other card I picked was Venomous Strike or Venom Strike Trap. Man, I'm gonna get this card's name wrong very often. But anyway,
Because like whenever you
I
say it,
keep
I
wanting
think
to say
of the
Venom Trap or Venomous Trap or something like that.
and then I think of the that bad rogue spell that gives you life steal.
Uh,
But that's leeching poison. It's like kind of the similar idea though.
yeah. Anyway, so Venom Strike Trap is a Hunter Secret, so it's 2
Yep.
mana. It reads when one of your minions is attacked, summon a 2/3 poisonous cobra. So that's basically an Emperor Cobra, meaning that whichever minion attacks one of your minions is basically going to die unless it has Divine Shield.
No,
So,
no. No, no. It's like snake trap. You're not attacking the
oh,
minion.
it's not. Oh, so you
It's
just
no,
get a
it's no.
Cobra that then replaces.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
never
like snake
mind. This
trap.
card sucks. I don't want to talk about this card anymore. Man, I totally misread that. I thought it, I
But
thought I thought
I was
it summoned it
confused.
like a Noble Sack kind of thing. Just
No,
summoned
no,
it
no, no,
instead,
no.
attacks it.
It's literally like a. It's like snake trap. So you attack another minion, and then the
Oh.
snakes appear, but the snakes don't take part in the combat.
Oh wow,
Did
okay.
you
I
think
thought
that
I thought it was
it's
really good. Like imagine how good it is when the
oh
poisonous cobra takes the attack. Like it's
that
just
what you
so good.
thought? Oh right, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was wondering. I was like, okay, I think it's good, but
Okay,
I was
okay.
wondering why you thought it was amazing.
No, okay, I
Oh,
totally misread it. I think it's definitely going to be interesting as to
still
how
decent though.
it changes the
Uh,
way you order your attacks, right?
yeah.
Because now you might want to hold back something that can kill the poisonous cobra, so the cobra can't attack during your turn.
So you ideally want 3 minions because the thing is you never want to you don't want to attack with your biggest minion because in case it's freezing trap. So you want a small minion to take the freezing trap. Then you want a middle-sized minion to kind of kill the cobra so that your big guy can kind of connect, right?
Something like that, yeah. It is going to make it, especially with Professor Putricide, that gives you random secrets in
Oh
play.
yes, that's good.
It's going to
Yeah,
make things
that
interesting.
might be. That could be a thing.
Okay, so I'm gonna cheat and call another card because I totally misread this card. And the other card I wanted to discuss that was quite close as a point with this, that one was Voodoo Hexam, which is a 5 mana 2/7 taunt for
Ah
Shaman,
yes.
and it reads freeze any character damaged by this minion.
So
So
it's a water elemental shaman basically.
yeah, so it's like Water Elemental combined with Ali
Early
Armorsmith,
Armor Smith. Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
And I think the stats are actually pretty playable. We've seen that in Ali Armorsmith, although Ali Armorsmith is mostly playable, I'd say, because of the Warrior Quest, right? But Voodoo Hexa might actually be playable because freezing minions that attack it is a pretty big punishment for, you know, like having to go through this taunt. And more often than not, you need to go through it with 2 minions. If I've learned anything from Ali
Tempo.
Armorsmith, it's that, yeah, mostly you get 2 minions, and then having 2 minions frozen is relatively significant.
And
So
potential. If you've got these synergies kind of now that they're trying to push, the free synergy. But
yeah,
even if without it,
Icebreaker and Friends.
just by itself, free. If the minions don't die as part of the combat, that sort of tempo loss, if it's an aggressive deck, I think could definitely be enough for you know the shaman to recover. You've got
Yeah, for
this.
some kind of mid-range shaman,
You've
shaman.
got the you've still got the what's it, the elemental heal, what's it called? You've got Genu Water Speaker still.
Yeah, yeah, for some kind
So
of like mid-range shaman, this could definitely work. Obviously, there are the frozen synergies that have, you were talking about that Blizzard have been releasing,
I'm
and
not sold on them
I'm
though,
not
to be
sold on them
honest.
either. But if they are good or playable, then Voodoo Hexa helps, but I think Voodoo Hexa might be good enough by itself. One of the other things that I think it does importantly is it softens up other targets for AoE from Shaman, which is
Yes.
obviously something that Shaman has sort of an abundance of, but not a lot of it is very high damage anymore. Volcano kind of the highest of the damage ones. So it softens up usually at least two targets to something like um, Lightning
Support.
Storm or Maelstrom Portal or something like that. So that's also why I think it's quite useful in a deck like that to abuse that damage that it does to minions that trade into it.
Also similar to what I think we chatted a bit earlier, but also it potentially there's the weakness if priests become like Cabal Shadow Priest,
Mm.
obviously, like as well as Kodo. It's kind of depending how the meta goes. If Kodos start rising in play, this becomes a bit weaker.
Yeah.
Obviously, like it feels really bad if someone you play this and then someone Cabal Shadow Priest. It's the same thing with Ellie Armorsmith, right? It feels really
Yeah.
bad if a priest steals that, but it all depends. Currently priests aren't that popular, so therefore it's still safe to play it. It's kind of a decision you might have to make based on how the meta progresses.
Yeah, this is also probably better to steal with Potion of Madness than
Oh
the
right. Oh,
Alliarmus is because you can run this into another big minion and freeze the big minion and kill
yeah.
this hopefully.
Or yeah, but it's still got the same combo potential of like you can OTK
Sure,
like
sure, sure, by stealing
yeah,
the minion. But that's like
yeah,
that's the less important thing
yeah.
here, I think. More importantly, you can run it into a big minion to kill it, to freeze the big minion and kill
That's
this,
yeah, exactly. You
kill
get a
the
bit of a
Hexa
tempo
off.
gain.
Although that is going to be unlikely. I mean, Shaman doesn't have that many really big minions these days. Like Kalamos is probably the biggest that,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure Voodoo
Alakia.
Hexa would be seen. Yeah, but Alakia is not big in that he doesn't have attack that will kill us
Oh
7 health. That's what I'm talking
yeah.
about.
Yeah. He's not a chunky. Yeah, he's
We
not that
need. We're
chunky.
talking about 7 or more attack, and there's not that
Yeah.
many. Only really when you get to like the big Jade do they actually get to that number, like the large
Yeah.
number of attack.
Generally, if you're reaching that point, you're generally losing.
Yeah. So I think there are obviously counterplays to it because of its 2 health. There is also the possibility, right, that this does work pretty well with something like Flame Tongue Totem as well, because
Yeah, definitely.
buffing the minion up more because it has the taunt as well. It works pretty well, and the
4/7,
freeze, yeah,
and it hides your value, like it hides your flame tongues and your,
Mana Tide
your mana
tokens, yeah,
tides potentially behind it. So I mean, obviously the taunt is very relevant.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't. I
It
mean, it'd
also
be
it
interesting to
also
see.
affects Stonehill Defender quite a lot. Even if the deck
Oh
card is not good
yes,
enough to
yeah,
see play by itself, it could see play from Stonehill Defender in many scenarios because that card's obviously quite popular in Shaman because of Thing from Below and Alakia as being good options to get, and White
and
Eyes
Earth
as well.
Elemental and Earth Elemental and White
Sure.
Eyes, like
So it actually is affecting the offer rate of those cards as well, which is somewhat relevant. In a way it's
oh,
a
yeah,
little bit of a nerf to
yeah.
Stonehill Defender and Shaman.
Yeah, it's interesting. Also, like sometimes, like I'm always curious if like that was an intentional part of the design or sort of a byproduct. Whether they consciously decided, okay, you know what, Stonehill is very popular in Shaman. Let's kind of, or whether it's just a sort of a incidental. Oh, look, we made a Shaman taunt. Oh, it also happens to nerf. To
Yeah.
kind of nerf Stonehill. I'm always curious as to what the designers were actually thinking.
Yeah, that is always a very interesting point of sort of this kind of card design.
I mean, it's the same with like also the fact that can you can't. I mean, this is kind of not bad to get off like Violence Portal as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
it's another
another
decent
taunt
sort of
for Violence
it's another
Portal,
taunt.
which
Like
is
when you,
often an out when you're like, oh well, I have to get taunt off this Violence Portal or I lose.
yeah, and it's 2/7, so it's it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It can keeps things alive. You
Yep,
can stall for a bit.
yep,
So yeah,
it is
all
definitely
around, I think
relevant.
it's a solid card that I think there will be a deck for it.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's all we really have for the new
Yeah.
cards. We'll do more specific videos to cover the rest of the cards and whatnot as the weeks go by. The other piece of news is merely around Ben Brode's rap for this set. Once again, the reveal video did not include a song, so it seems like Ben
Everyone's
Brode is
very
going to be
upset.
doing a rap for Knights of the Frozen Throne, which I believe is due to come out tomorrow or today, depending on what time you're watching this,
No, it's
on
already
the
come out.
1st of.
It's on the link. The link is there. I still need to watch it, but it's there.
Oh, okay, so it is out. Okay, I haven't
Yeah.
watched it yet either. Um, too busy watching Game of Thrones and other things. So yeah, so that's all we really have for news for this week. Mostly we're just getting hyped for the expansion and looking forward to that. But whilst this was going on, there was another major tournament for the Hearthstone competitive scene. We've had pretty much non-stop tournaments every weekend, and this one was one of the first, or sort of one of the big major tournaments for the year in the Asia Pacific or Southeast Asia region. So this was the Southeast Asia Major that took place in Thailand, and there was a bunch of players that came from other countries from outside the APAC region. So we got some players coming from China and Korea, although Korea's kind of APAC but not
APAC.
Southeast Asia. Anyway,
Yeah.
confusing. And then there was some players that came from Europe and I think some that came from the US as well. Not actually sure if there were any
Yeah.
US
I
players.
remember seeing that there was like there were some players from I think from Europe and from America. I can't actually.
I don't know. I mean, the diagrams they have here don't actually have any American players on. But anyway, so point is there was a pretty strong field. There was a 256 man or something apparently in terms of the people that actually pitched up. Double elimination
128
bracket.
man.
Yeah, it says
128
that,
man double elimination.
but during the cast they constantly said 200 people.
Oh right.
So I
Okay.
don't think the Wikipedia article is correct here. So yeah, so it was Conquest, 4 classes, 1 ban, which is sort of a deviation from the last hero standing we've been seeing a lot recently. And in the end, X-Hope fought his way up from the losers bracket to face Kranich in the final. The final, they just basically dropped the ban, so it became a best of seven, and X-Hope managed to take the final 4-2, I think it was, or maybe 4-3. I don't know. I was watching the VOD, but X-Hope has been on quite a tear this year. Sort of definitely been the best performing Chinese player. He's made two of the two of the seasonal championship events. He made it to Bahamas to play in the Winter Championships, and then also to Shanghai to play in the Spring Championships. Unfortunately, hasn't qualified for Worlds yet, but just making it to those two championships is a big achievement. I mean, we spoke about that a lot in terms of like Naria, who had a pretty much a similar story about making it to the two championships in a row. And yeah, X Hope also won the EU versus CN, so winning the Ferrari, but instead opting to take the cash instead of the Ferrari. So it's been a very good year for X Hope. He's definitely been performing
except at
really
the
well.
except at the championships, right?
Sure, but I mean, just making it to the championships is an achievement. That's kind of what we're getting at here, right?
Yeah,
None of the
definitely.
Chinese players performed particularly well at the championships, but there's a decent chance he can make a run for the next championships. So we'll see if he manages to make it there. But yeah, it's X-Hope's been sort of touted as one of the best players in China, and certainly becoming more and more known to us in the western side of the world, and definitely
As the
like
man who eats his hat, at the man who eats and
yeah.
talks to his hat.
Yeah, it makes him seem a little crazy, but his performances have been panning out for him. And
Yeah,
obviously, and I mean, he beat Kranich in the final, another player that's been having a pretty good
really
year.
consistent.
Yeah, so he's consistently, well, he's been to two of the World Championships already, and
Yeah,
he qualified for the Spring Championships. Unfortunately, also didn't manage to make it to qualify for the World Championships, so he'll probably be back for the next season and then the next playoffs event to try and make
yeah,
it back to the what will be the Summer Championships. Yeah, so
yeah.
you know, the one European player that did quite well, I know, was Tic Tac. So, it's a good performance for Tic Tac, a player that's pretty well known in the competitive scene, but maybe not that well known outside of it. So it was a good
Yeah.
result for him as well. Yeah. I know you said you didn't really watch much of this event because you were busy playing in the ESL
Yeah, I was playing the
African
ESL.
Championship qualifiers. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? I mean, we weren't really planning to talk about it, but considering you did actually play it, maybe you can give
Yeah,
us a
so
little bit of a down low.
the season two qualifiers were on Saturday and Sunday. There were two independent ones, and basically the top two players qualified for the ESL season two. Uh, on the Saturday, I came really close. I made it to the semi-finals until being knocked out. And then on the Sunday, I got knocked out first round by a fellow South African, Fafa. So it was obviously quite unfortunate, but
Mm.
that's generally unfortunate the way a large open bracket goes when it's single elimination. Sometimes things do go your way, sometimes things don't go your way, and I mean, like it's the nature of the beast. I go
Yeah.
from one day nearly qualifying to the next day not even making it out of the first round.
Yeah, it is really rough, especially losing that like one game away on the Saturday. It was pretty
Yeah,
rough. But there's always next season. Now we're going to be going on to the playoffs for the bottom four players from season one will play off against these qualifiers, and then we'll have our eight for next season going into the season two and the full double round robin bracket again. So it's
yeah.
going to be a lot of ESL action coming up again soon, and I think we'll be bringing a lot more of that or streaming a lot more of that coming up soon.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's all we really have for tonight. Lots more cards that we'll talk about in the future and in other videos. So, give the channel a follow or subscribe and like, and let us know if there's other specific cards maybe you want us to talk about, or if you have your opinions on the cards we did discuss. Let us know. Any kind of feedback is always welcome. So, thanks a lot for watching.
Yep.
Until next time. Cheerio.
Yes.